Right now, a tree outside your window is sending sugar through the ground to feed a sick neighbor. Not tomorrow. Right now. Most people think trees are silent. They stand still, they make oxygen, and that is it. But scientists have discovered something surprising. Trees talk to each other. They share food. They even warn each other about danger. How do they do it? Under the forest floor, there is a huge network of tiny threads. These threads connect the roots of thousands of trees. Scientists call it the Wood Wide Web. Through this network, trees send signals, water, and nutrients to each other, like messages through the internet. This is not a fairy tale. This is real science. And once you know it, you will never look at a forest the same way again. That is not a fairy tale. That is science. And today we are going to explore the secret life of trees, step by step. Let us start with a simple question. What does a tree actually need to survive? Like any living thing, a tree needs water, sunlight, and nutrients, the minerals and chemicals in the soil that help it grow. Simple enough, right? But here is where it gets interesting. Trees do not always have everything they need in one place. The soil might be poor in some areas. A young tree might be growing in the shadow of a bigger tree and cannot get enough sunlight. So how do trees survive in difficult conditions? The answer is, they help each other. Scientists have discovered that trees in a forest are connected underground through a system of tiny threads called fungi. Think of fungi like the internet cables of the forest. Just like your home internet connects your computer to millions of other computers around the world, these fungal threads connect one tree to hundreds, sometimes thousands, of other trees. This underground network has a beautiful name. Scientists call it the mycorrhizal network. But many people call it something even more poetic, the Wood Wide Web. So how does this network actually work? Let us use an analogy. Think of each tree as a house. The tree has things it needs, like sugar and water. The fungal threads are like roads connecting all the houses in a neighborhood. And along these roads, the trees can send packages to each other. A large, old tree, scientists call these mother trees, can send sugar through the network to a small, young tree that is struggling in the shade. The young tree receives this sugar like food, and it helps the young tree survive until it is strong enough to grow on its own. This is not just a theory. Scientists have actually measured it. They used a special technique where they marked the carbon, a chemical element, inside one tree. Carbon is one of the main building blocks of sugar. Then they watched where that marked carbon went. And they found it traveling through the fungal network into neighboring trees. The mother tree was literally feeding her neighbors. But the communication does not stop there. Trees also warn each other about danger. When a tree is attacked by insects, small bugs that eat its leaves, it does two things. First, it produces chemicals in its leaves that make them taste bad to the insects. This is the tree defending itself. But second, and this is the amazing part, it sends a chemical signal through the air. This signal travels to nearby trees. And those neighboring trees, when they receive the signal, start producing the same defensive chemicals in their own leaves. Even before the insects reach them. Think about that. The trees are sending a warning message. Danger is coming. Prepare yourself. It is like a neighborhood alarm system, but made entirely of chemistry. Scientists have also discovered that trees can recognize their own family. A mother tree will send more nutrients through the network to her own seedlings, her own children, than to unrelated trees nearby. She can tell the difference. She knows who her family is. How is this possible? The answer lies in the roots. Tree roots release tiny chemical signals into the soil. These signals are like a chemical fingerprint, unique to each tree and its family. The fungal network can read these fingerprints and help direct resources to the right places. Now, you might be thinking, this all sounds incredible, but do trees actually feel anything? Do they experience the world? This is a question that scientists debate very seriously. Trees do not have a brain. They do not have a nervous system like humans or animals. But they do respond to their environment in very complex ways. They respond to light, to touch, to sound vibrations, and to chemical signals. Some researchers have found that trees respond to music and sound waves. The roots of plants actually grow toward the sound of running water, even when there is no water visible. They can sense the vibration of the sound and follow it. So while we cannot say that trees think or feel the way humans do, they are clearly doing something far more complex than we ever imagined. But here is what almost no one talks about. Trees also have memory. A tree that has survived a drought, a long period without rain, will actually change the way it grows. It will develop deeper roots to find water more efficiently. And it will pass this adaptation on to its seeds. Its children will be born already slightly better prepared for drought conditions. This is a form of memory that lives not in a brain, but in the biology of the tree itself. The tree learned from its experience and changed because of it. Scientists call this epigenetic memory, a big phrase that simply means the tree's experiences can change how its genes work, and those changes can be passed to the next generation. Think of it like this: if you had a very hard childhood, some of those experiences might change how your body works. And in some cases, those changes can even affect your children. Trees do something similar. Now let us talk about one of the most surprising discoveries in tree science. When a tree is dying, when it is old, sick, or has been cut, it does something remarkable. It releases a large amount of its stored carbon and nutrients into the network. It gives everything away before it dies. Scientists believe this is not random. The dying tree is redistributing its resources to the trees around it, especially to younger trees nearby. It is like a grandmother giving away her savings and her wisdom to her grandchildren before she passes away. Suzanne Samar, a Canadian forest scientist, has spent decades studying this behavior. She was one of the first scientists to prove that mother trees feed their young through the fungal network. Her research changed how we understand forests completely. She describes the forest not as a collection of individual trees competing against each other, which is what scientists used to believe, but as a community. A cooperative community where trees share resources, communicate danger, recognize family, and even care for their dying members. This idea, that nature is cooperative, not just competitive, is one of the most important shifts in modern biology. For a long time, scientists described nature using the phrase survival of the fittest. The strongest survive. The weak die. Competition is everything. And while competition is certainly real in nature, the story of trees shows us that cooperation is just as important, maybe even more important. A forest where trees share resources is a stronger forest. It can survive drought, disease, and damage better than a forest where every tree is alone. The community is stronger than the individual. This has huge lessons for us as humans, but we will come back to that. First, let us talk about one more remarkable thing trees do: they can count. Many trees need a period of cold weather, winter, before they can bloom in spring. This is called vernalization. But how does a tree know when winter is over and spring has begun? It counts the hours of cold. A cherry tree, for example, needs a certain number of cold hours before it will produce flowers. If it does not get enough cold hours, it will not bloom properly. The tree is literally measuring time and temperature, keeping a kind of biological record of the winter. This is why climate change is such a serious problem for trees. As winters become shorter and warmer, some trees are not getting the cold hours they need. They bloom at the wrong time. They produce fruit at the wrong time. The whole rhythm of the forest is being disrupted. And when the trees are disrupted, everything that depends on them is disrupted too: insects, birds, animals, and ultimately, humans. So why does all of this matter for our everyday lives? First, it matters for how we manage forests. For many years, the logging industry, the business of cutting trees, would remove the oldest, biggest trees first, because they had the most wood. But now we know that those old mother trees are the heart of the forest network. When you remove them, the whole network weakens. Young trees lose their support system. The forest becomes less healthy, less resilient. Understanding the secret life of trees has changed how many countries now manage their forests. Some countries now protect old trees specifically because of their role in the network. Second, it matters for medicine. Many of the chemical signals that trees produce to defend themselves are being studied by scientists as possible medicines. The same chemicals that make a leaf taste bad to an insect might have powerful effects on human diseases. Forests are, in a sense, giant natural laboratories. Third, it matters for climate change. Healthy forests absorb enormous amounts of carbon dioxide, the gas that causes global warming. A forest where trees are connected and sharing resources is a healthier, more productive forest. It absorbs more carbon. Protecting forests is one of the most powerful tools we have against climate change. And finally, it matters for something deeper, for how we see the world. For centuries, humans have seen nature as something separate from us. Something to be used, controlled, or conquered. But the secret life of trees tells a different story. It tells us that nature is not a collection of separate, competing individuals. It is a web of relationships. A community of living things that depend on each other, communicate with each other, and care for each other. And we are part of that web. The air we breathe comes from trees. The water cycle that fills our rivers is regulated by forests. The food we eat depends on healthy ecosystems. We are not outside of nature looking in. We are inside it. The next time you walk through a park or a forest, look at the trees around you differently. Beneath your feet, right now, there is a network of fungal threads connecting those trees. Chemical messages are traveling through the soil. A mother tree might be feeding a young one. A tree might be sending a warning to its neighbors. The forest is alive in ways we are only beginning to understand. And the more we learn, the more we realize that the natural world is far more intelligent, far more cooperative, and far more beautiful than we ever imagined. Trees have been on this planet for over 350 million years. They were here long before humans. They have survived ice ages, volcanic eruptions, and mass extinctions. Maybe, just maybe, they know something we do not. And maybe it is time we started listening.